Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Goa Ahead. And the topic that we are discussing this week is about the government jobs and why government jobs are being used as political currency in Goa at the time of election, before the election, and even after the election. Why a MLA and how a MLA can go around and tell people that I am going to give so many jobs in my constituency, when in reality, all those jobs should be appointed, selected through a proper process of transparency and fair mechanism. What is wrong and why these political parties are resorting to such kind of tactics? I have three eminent panelists with me. First, I have Professor Nilesh Borde, who is a professor of Goa Business School of Goa University. Next, I am joined by BJP leader, Advocate Yatish Naik. Yatish, welcome. Third, last and definitely not the least, I am joined by senior Congress leader and former Union Law Minister Ramakant Khalap. Bhai, welcome, and it is nice to see Bhai you joining us from your educational institute for a topic like this. So I think there cannot be a more appropriate and better location to discuss this topic. I'll start with Nilesh. Nilesh, when you see this, you deal with students on day-to-day basis. Where does the problem lie? Is it with the political parties that the government jobs have become an instrument to get votes? Or is it the psyche of our students, psyche of our youngsters, or psyche of our society that is driving these political parties to indulge into such kind of practices?
Thanks, Pramod, for having me. But I think I would like to look at it in two ways. I think there is a place where you have a start of this whole phenomenon. And the start of the phenomenon starts with the political parties. So the root cause is the political parties. Now the problem is the society's psyche, as you very rightly said, has also kind of got tuned to this whole concept that if it is a job, it has to be a government job. If I do not have a government job, I'm unemployed. Another very important thing what you have been talking about is I'm not sure if government is really, or the political parties really look at giving jobs as a means to win elections, because I'm not sure about that. However, from what happened in the past, when the elections were about to happen, and when you had a lot of MLAs from the ruling party who basically said that there is corruption in jobs, I think more than winning elections, it is basically to win currency. As you very rightly said. So I think most of the job opportunities that get created is for this.
Very interesting. We'll come to that currency point later. Bhai, how are you looking at this? You also deal with students, youngsters on day-to-day basis. When you look at this, where does the problem lie? Is it the political setup trying to exploit the Janta, or the Janta trying to exploit the political setup at the time of election?
See, it is not a one-way process. It all started after liberation, when people's aspirations increased. They found that the facilities for employment in the villages, in the towns were not appropriate, not enough. And government went on a recruitment spree. Now, with government service, you all know that once you are a government employee, you are there till you retire, after about 30 years or 40 years. You get promotions after you complete so many years in service. Your performance is never assessed. Whether you devote your full time to that particular job you have taken up or not, nobody assesses that to you. So there is no accountability. Salary size has increased year after year. We have had so many commissions appointed, 5th pay commission, 6th pay commission, 7th pay commission, and this will go on. And then the salary packet has become so big that almost for doing no work, you take home a sizable packet. So naturally, every effort, every step is taken by the parents and the candidate himself to see that somehow he lands a job. And then giving such a job became a political requirement, and it also became a political precondition to get elected. So every candidate, if you look at them, their speeches, the candidate said, I will see to you that maximum number of my students in my constituency will get jobs. And what jobs? Government jobs. So people prefer government jobs, number one. Thereafter, the banks are there. Thereafter, institutions like education institutes are there. But the MLA, the candidate, the aspiring minister, for him, the only thing that his performance is judged is by the number of jobs that he has offered. Unfortunately, we have to accept this. Then comes the corruption part of it. You use the word currency. There are two ways. Corruption is by way of winning people's mandate based on the number of jobs given. And second is on the sly. There are people, there are agents of these aspiring MLAs, politicians, who go about and promise jobs to them. A lot of people have come across, substances have come across. In the absence of a proof, it becomes difficult. In what way can we stop this? We have the jobs in the public sector, but enough number of industries have not come. Those which have the industries which have been set up here, they are now technologically so advanced that they need minimum number of heads to carry on their work. Number two, the tertiary sector. Primary sector, people have turned back from primary sector, agriculture, etc. Nobody wants it. The secondary sector and the tertiary sector that we have, services. In fact, services create the maximum number of jobs today. The tertiary sector creates.
Yeah.
But is there a way by which we regulate it? We don't. First of all, our people are not interested in those. So as a result, we have an influx of people coming from the rest of the states who are prepared to take any type of job because in their states, such type of job, government jobs are not available to them.
A very interesting point, whether our people are interested in taking the jobs that are available, or as Nilesh very interestingly said, our definition of employment has become, the employment means government job.
Government
So,
job.
yeah. So Yatish, how are you looking at it? You are a lawyer, you are a professional, and you have also seen what happens actually on ground when it comes to the expectations of people when it about government jobs. How are you looking at this? Is it a chicken and hen egg kind of a scenario, or you feel that a political setup is more responsible than the janta?
No, if you see it very carefully and analyze it, one has to understand that jobs, once the government seeks to create jobs, there are certain benchmarks and sieving mechanisms even for the creation of jobs. You have the finance department, you have the law department, so therefore you just cannot create jobs like that. They cannot be just through a magic wand. There are certain rigors of administration. So you cannot create jobs just like that. So jobs are created because government has to function, government has to move ahead, and the government has to work. So who will man the government? Is the people who will man the government. So you need government servants, you need officers and all that sort. So it is wrong to say in that context that government jobs are just being sprued and created, and it doesn't work that way. Though there may be an impression, but it is necessarily not right if you see the rigors of the finance department, the law department and the mechanism at the governmental level. Having said that, we need to understand that education has spread far and wide. Now colleges, schools, and that's a very desirable trend, it's a very welcome step, that everybody is getting himself, herself or her wards, children educated. What is the effect of it? The effect of it is once the child passes out, the parents want that the child should be gainfully employed. The children want a good salary for themselves. They want a stable life. Now therefore, there are two ways. One way is that they look towards the government. Wherever, see, it's not wrong to look at towards the government, because government also has got avenues for jobs. Government officers, you see there are so many corporations of the government, departments of the government. So one way is to look at the government for jobs. But government creates jobs as much as it can create, in as much as the rigors of administration are concerned. You can just not create jobs like that. Just that the administration works carefully with the rigors of finance and law departments guidelines. Now, the second part of it is your private sector jobs. Your private sector jobs can be through retail, can be through manufacturing, can be through skill based, can be through IT, can be through green industries, can be through skill based things. So many avenues are there. Now, I am so happy that of late, I am seeing a lot of thrust on policy perspectives. And this is because we are moving into an era of e-governance. We are almost through it, on the threshold of it that way. Now you see our IT department. IT industries are looking at Goa. IT department is creating a policy perspective to welcome these industries. You see department like labor. I just read the other day the minister speaking that minimum wages will be hiked. See, these kind of things will help create avenues for employment. Then you have industries. I just heard some days back, and the people of the state have heard that the industries minister of the state has said that I'm really going to look at a policy perspective towards the betterment of industries in the state. Then you have the agriculture minister also speaking that I'm going to bring in schemes, support and incentives towards making agriculture more fashionable, agriculture more lucrative, agriculture more welcoming. So basically there are two aspects. One aspect is the government as a job creator directly. And that is not wrong. I mean, the government creates jobs. The
No, but
people
the
apply for
question
it.
is when a MLA or a minister says that I will give so many jobs in my constituency, don't you think it exactly passes the rigors that you are mentioning?
No, see, it is like this. Once, whoever may say anything, but once jobs are advertised, there is a process for filling up vacancies. There is a mechanism within the system. And now you see, you have got the Public Service Commission, you have got papers set by the experts, you have got, so there are, you have to clear all these sort of steps,
Nilesh, do you agree with that? That yes, the government is an employment provider, but right now in our society, government looks like the primary employment provider. There are two issues with that. Number one, how much jobs will government will create? Because as Yatish said, there is a limit to it. Number two is if our entire younger population, the whole aspiration in their life is to be a government servant, what happens to the entrepreneurial skill or spirit of our society?
I want to comment on four things here. Number one, what right does a MLA have to go and say that he's going to give jobs? So the first thing itself shows that our government job creation or the government job process is flawed. Because in my opinion, there are separate agencies that are given task or job of employing government servants. For example, you've got Goa Public Service Commission. That simply shows indirectly that these are people who have got control over these independent organizations, which itself I think is a very dangerous sign to me as a teacher. That comes as a number one factor. So number one is, I don't think any MLA, or I believe that there must be some action taken against all those candidates who go around and say that I'm going to provide you jobs. They need to say, I'm going to create an environment which will create jobs. That's first. Should the government be employing people anymore? The government shouldn't. Advocate Yatish Naik said something really nice about, the political policy intent of the ministers. But in the same breath, the same industries minister says that if the GST money does not come to the government will not even be able to pay the government servants their salaries. So we are very fast approaching a point where the government does not have enough money to pay the salaries of these people. That's the second point. So therefore, number three, there is a huge amount of surplus that you have in the government departments. I would tend to disagree a bit with a veteran like Advocate Ramakant Khalabji, because I don't believe that the government servants don't do job at all. I think, the kind of stress that the government servants go through is huge. It's tremendous. And there are so many problems therefore I believe that the government should not be in the business. The reason is because they are entangled with so many things. The government becomes a very easy target. So for example, if the government starts getting into a hotel business like the Goa Tourism Development Corporation, I can tell you 100 places from which the government can get cornered and the whole place can get stalled. You have a lot of issues there. Now, what one needs to understand and one needs to this is that the government therefore should not be basically looking at employing more people any which ways. Whatever number of people are there, there has to be a proper HR audit that needs to happen. The people need to be trained and retrained so that wherever there is a deficit, that deficit is taken care of by another place where there is surplus. That's the most important thing, basically, because the government does not have enough money today in order to employ more. So I think the government is doing a blasphemous act by getting into employing or trying to show people a carrot of employment, because that's going to be disastrous for Goa. And the fourth point that I want to make here is that when you are looking at government and government trying to create jobs, I think we need to look at the kind of industries that are suitable for Goa. Yatish Bab said something which is very beautiful, and I think it is very important. I also said this to one of the persons who asked me this question from one of the leading national news daily, that the problem is today the education has become pervasive. Unfortunately, I also, as a person from the field or industry of education, want to take the blame that I have not created a dignity of labor. Which simply means that a person, for example, today who becomes an MBA does not really want to look at plumbing or electrician as a business opportunity or a self-entrepreneurship. Not only that, Pramod, I can tell you that there are so many people who come from a jeweler families. And one of the things that I tend to ask them is, why don't you take it to a level like Pune Gadgil? Or why don't you take it to a level of Vaman Haripete? Why do you want to keep it there? Why don't you scale it up? But they don't want to be a part of it. So I think to some extent, even the education sector needs to kind of start pulling their socks up in telling people that the job opportunities do not only lie in the government. So it is important. So the kind of industries that are required to come, I cannot be bringing in a metal manufacturing company in a Goa where I need
They should be
unskilled
in
labor.
tune with the character of the state.
Absolutely.
Respond to both those points. Number one,
First of all, I will
yeah.
respond to Professor Nilesh, where he said that I blame the entire government machinery or government service that they do not work. What I meant to say was, there is a perception has developed that once you are a government servant, you are a government servant till your lifetime, and hardly any action seems to be taken against those who are truant or who do not perform. This is one aspect of it. What I intend to tell you is that the government has moved towards this particular phenomenon in such a way that it appears as if there is no other job available except the government service. So what could be done? MLAs take advantage of the situation. There was an independent machinery to recruit employees at class 3 and class 4 level. You have, of course, Goa Public Service Commission, which takes care of class 1 and class 2.
And there are staff selection commission.
That commission.
Yeah.
But this recruitment commission which was there was wiped away. Government did not adopt that particular procedure. And each minister started declaring that I have so many jobs in my department. And then you have seen what has happened, how for one job, even 1,000 youngsters started applying. So therefore, what happens is, in my opinion, is government talks about maximum governance and minimum government. Some type of slogan of this nature is given. Do they live up to that slogan? Has any government, whether it is BJP, MGP or Congress or even at the Delhi government, have they lived up to that particular slogan they have given? Actually, they should go back and think of it. Is it outsourcing? Is it impossible to outsource government jobs? It is possible to a certain extent.
Well, you made a very, very interesting point, and I want to take that point to Yatish. There is 2 points. Number one, there is a perception that if you get a government job, there is no assessment, there is no HR audit, nobody is going to question you if your performance is not up to the mark. There is an absolute job security. Your salary is going to increase year after year, irrespective of your performance. And most importantly, as far as the public interface is concerned, you cannot be held accountable beyond the point. Secondly, Chief Minister made a very clear statement yesterday. He said that this attitude of government servant cannot be tolerated. So the head of the administration also admits that there is an attitude within the administration where public service is no longer considered as public service. It is merely looked upon as an employment opportunity and a salary month by month. How do you look at both these issues?
No, you see, Chief Minister made that statement because he wants a functional government. Chief Minister wants an administration which is sensitive, which is responsive to the people, and which is delivery oriented. So he has tried to put his views across so that the sanitization and the sensitivity is ingrained in the minds of the government servants that we are here to deliver and perform. So you have to look at it that way, because we want a good system to function. Now, as far as government jobs are concerned, that was your first question, right?
Yeah.
As far as the government jobs are concerned, again, I want to tell you that you just can't create government jobs. There is a perception, or what, I don't know what to call it, but suppose an X department decides to create jobs. The X department doesn't just go and with the stroke of a pen and the flourish of the purple decides to advertise so many vacancies. It doesn't happen that way. It goes at the within the layers of the government. The scrutiny is done. There has to be financial approval for it. There has to be a legal vetting over the procedure.
But Yatish Babu, a simple question: should there be a HR audit, as Nilesh mentioned, or a very frank assessment of whether we are overstaffed, considering the technology, e-governance initiatives that you mentioned that have been brought in, whether the level at which our government administration or bureaucracy was functioning, whether we are overstaffed at this point of time, or we need to audit how about our staffing pattern. Do you think that needs to be done right now, both from the HR and functional or operations point of view, as well as the economic or financial point of view?
See, as far as the mechanism is concerned to keep a check on the government servants, there are some mechanisms ingrained and embedded in the system. Like you have this of writing the CRs, confidential reports. The confidential reports of the government servants are written by the superiors in the department and above. So why is this? This is because you want the government servants to function better. You want them to function well. So there are systems. Now I can agree with you to the extent, and Professor Borde also, that to the extent that we have to improve the system. So you need to improve, and that is a continuous process. New ideas may be brought into, you may need better systems, you may need better steps in the system. But there are some systems in place which can be improved.
You are saying there are checks and balances that need to be vigorously
can be made
implemented.
better. Can be made better.
Just to intervene, HR audit is not about trying to see how many people are functioning properly or not. That's not the objective. HR audit is basically just taking a number of people working in each department.
Whether overstaffed or
understaffed. Because there is I believe there is an imbalance. Let's take a very simple example, and I would want to take this message to Yatish Bab, who could probably take it to the government on behalf of everybody. For example, when you look at class 3 and class 4 recruitment, why should they be department wise? I think if the government can have how many people are there?
That was the purpose of Staff Service Commission.
Correct. So if I could have one requirement done, I mean, can't the government department just coordinate with each other, figuring out how many are required? Then second thing is, can't it be transparent? For example, I set almost about 10 to 15 different question paper sets, so nobody knows what they are. And then they come randomly in front of, in a form of, say, a Google form kind of a thing. And as soon as the exam is over, like in case of GPSC, you are also aware about what your marks are. So, everything is put in transparent manner. So the first thing is, I think number one, we don't need, I mean, the process is a much later part. I very strongly believe in the next 5 years, the government should not be employing anybody. But because the government first needs to figure out where there is excess, those excess could be picked up from there, if required, trained in order to suit the other departments or other divisions, which is possible and it can easily happen.
Yeah. Before I go to Bhai Khalap, just very quickly on that point, Bhai also raised that point. The reason why our youngsters want to be in public service or become government servants is because there is less work and more pay. Don't you think that's a very, very troubling trend?
That's a you asked this to me, or
yes,
you asked me?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a faculty member, I believe that's a kind of perception people have, but I don't know. I mean, if you notice there, if you interact more with youngsters who are probably doing their post graduation or graduation, they are not really interested in jobs which do not have work. I think they are interested in jobs, for example, which have got tremendous amount of work, a lot of power. And so they know that they would have to work 24/7. The problem is where some of the youngsters have come and told me and confided in me as a teacher that there are some places where they have to pay, and the amount is huge. What troubles me as a teacher is not even that. What troubles me as a finance teacher beyond that is this is an investment, which simply means that a young kid, formative mind, who is out there wanting to get into a job market, walks into a job market saying that there is an investment he's making and he wants a return on that investment.
Yeah.
Now that troubles me, because you are not just finishing the existing system.
And that sets into motion a chain reaction
Chain
that is
reaction,
very difficult
and
to control thereafter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the full future is
Yeah,
at
Yatish,
stake.
yeah.
I just want to intervene here for a minute. You know, so many vacancies for PSIs were advertised because police stations have increased, work has increased, so many things have, so vacancies were advertised. I know of so many youngsters who applied. And believe me, there are lawyers who have applied, there are people who are well educated have applied, and the motive is not just to get a government job. They are driven by performance, merit. They have studied well in their colleges, in their universities, and yes, they want to be gainfully employed. So they have come into the government. But believe me, I know a lot of people, and many of them whom I know, I mean, they are also wanting to enter government because they want to perform.
By final words, what is one reform that you would expect from this, not just as a politician, but somebody who is concerned about the state
Yes.
and the state of bureaucracy?
Correct.
What is one reform that you would expect this government to
I
implement?
am very much concerned with all these things that's going around here. I have students before me. They are aspiring for jobs. But the government and their parents both are targeting the job in a particular department, and through that MLA or minister, they want to drop it. To remove this, first of all, create a mechanism by which all recruitment will be done by an independent authority, where there will be minimum interference, or rather no interference from these government functionaries like MLAs and ministers. One part. Number two, how many employees you need? There has to be an assessment for a period of 5 years. And this assessment should be done by a government which comes in power after immediate elections. And the next 5 years, there is no recruitment.
Not at the fag end of the term.
Though not the fag of the term.
Yeah.
This is the second thing that I will do. Third is trim the government. If you want to give maximum governance, if you want to do, why do you want to go on adding people here? Use technology. The IT part of it, e-governance was a concept which I brought in through experts like our former chairman of the Infotech Corporation. E-governance.
You are saying by make maximum use of e-governance,
Yes.
reduce the number of government servants, streamline the administration, make
And see that in the private
better use of finances, create employment opportunities beyond government sector, and make the process transparent. I think very valid points. On that note, I'm completely out of time, but I think very valid points. Nilesh, Yatish, bhai, thanks a lot for participating in this discussion. Keep watching. Go ahead.
Thank you.